Stepmother announced she was cutting me from Dad's will at the reading. The lawyer started laughing. My stepmother tried to cut me out of my dad's will. Then the lawyer started laughing so hard she turned ghost wife. When my dad, Callum, died last year, I knew his wife Avalon would try something shady. She'd been digging her claws into his money for years while pretending I Everly didn't exist. So there I was, sitting in a fancy law office, surrounded by oil paintings and the smell of old leather and older secrets. Avalon sat across from me, dripping diamonds, flanked by her spoiled kids, Jackson and Sienna. Jackson scrolled his phone, bragging, "First thing I'm buying is that 60-foot yacht in Miami." Sienna flipped her bleached hair and giggled, "I'm getting a mansion in the Hamptons." Avalon just patted their hands with those perfect nails she'd sharpened on my father's bank account. She shot me a look that could kill. "I don't even know why you bothered showing up, Everly." Callum made it very clear, you get nothing. The lawyer, Mr. Maddox Blackwood, walked in with my dad's will. He looked like he was trying not to laugh already. "Shall we begin?" he asked. Avalon leaned back, smirking. "Let's hurry. I have a meeting with my financial advisor at 3. Mr. Blackwood cleared his throat. "According to this will, Callum's estate goes entirely to Avalon and her children, with a small donation to charity. And as for Everly, Avalon couldn't hold it in." She sneered. "She gets nothing. 7 years of marriage, and I made Callum send no money for his ungrateful daughter." Jackson and Sienna smirked like hyenas, but that's when Mr. Blackwood cracked. He burst out laughing, like really laughing. Avalon snapped. "What's so funny?" He wiped his eyes. "Mrs. Morrison, do you know what a revocable living trust is?" Avalon scoffed. "Of course." Callum didn't have one. Mr. Blackwood slid out a thick folder. "Actually, Callum set up the Morrison Family Trust 25 years ago. When Everly was 10, he had moved all his assets into her name. Last year, Avalon went pale." "That's impossible." Mr. Blackwood grinned. "He updated it secretly just before his death. The trust already owns the houses, cars, and accounts you've been spending legally. You've been living in Everly's properties on Everly's dime for the last 14 months. Jackson's jaw dropped. "Wait, so the yacht was never yours?" ID cut in. "Neither is the house in the Hamptons, Sienna." Avalon slammed her fist on the table. "This is fraud. We'll sue." Mr. Blackwood calmly pulled out a medical report. Callum was of sound mind. He even hired private investigators. He knew about the secret credit cards, the missing family dinners, the fake pills you gave him. Avalon's mascara started. "To run, you can't prove." "Already did," I said, pulling out 3 envelopes. "Eviction notices. You have 30 days to get out of my houses." Avalon's voice cracked. "But I'm his wife." "You were a tenant," I said. "Dad figured out your true value, Avalon. $1. Mr. Blackwood placed 3 crisp $1 bills on the table. Callum's final will, $1 each for Avalon, Jackson, and Sienna. Jackson looked like he might cry. Sienna's fake lashes fluttered like dying butterflies. Then Mr. Blackwood handed me Dad's final letter. "Let Avalon think she won. Everything's been in your name for over a year. Love, Dad, peace. Check my desk. Your mom's ring is waiting." I stood up. "Good luck with that yacht, Jackson. Maybe you can paddle away with your dollar." Then I walked out, and behind me, Avalon finally cried. When my father, Callum Morrison, passed away last year, I knew his second wife, Avalon, would try something. She always had her claws sunk deep into his bank account, feeding off his wealth like a queen bee while pretending I Everly, his only daughter, didn't exist. She never liked me. I was the shadow that reminded her she wasn't the first, and would never be the best. Still, I showed up at the reading of the will, even though every instinct told me not to. The law office looked like a Gothic novel, all mahogany wood, oil paintings of dead men in powdered wigs, and the lingering smell of old leather and older secrets. Avalon was already there, perched like a queen on a throne, diamonds dripping from her wrists and neck, perfectly manicured nails like weapons. Her children, Jackson and Sienna, were sprawled out beside her. Oblivious and smug, Jackson was scrolling his phone, bragging to whoever was listening, "First thing I'm buying is that 60-foot yacht in Miami." Sienna, all bleach blonde, hair and fake lips, giggled, "I want a mansion in the Hamptons, maybe with an indoor pool and a helicopter pad." Avalon just smiled, satisfied. "Whatever you want, my loves. We've earned this." She looked at me across the room like I was gum on her Louboutin heel. "I don't even know why you bothered coming, Everly," she sneered. "Callum made it very clear. You get nothing." Before I could reply, the door opened and in walked Mr. Maddox Blackwood, our family attorney. He was tall, silver-haired, with a face that belonged in a courtroom drama. And as he sat down with a thick folder under his arm, I noticed something strange. He was smiling, no, more like holding back a laugh. "Shall we begin?" he asked, voice smooth. Avalon leaned back in her chair. "Please, let's get this over with. I have a meeting with my financial advisor at 3. Mr. Blackwood opened the will. According to this, Callum's estate goes entirely to Avalon, and her 2 children, with a small sum donated to his favorite charity. And as for Everly," Avalon interrupted, giddy. "She gets nothing," she said with a venomous grin. 7 years of marriage, and I made Callum realize how ungrateful. His daughter was Jackson, and Sienna smirked like cartoon villains. That's when Mr. Blackwood lost it. He started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, full-blown, uncontrollable laughter. He even had to wipe tears from his eyes. Avalon's smile twisted. "What the hell is so funny?" Mr. Blackwood composed himself, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Morrison, are you familiar with the concept of a revocable living trust?" Avalon crossed her arms. Of course. Callum didn't have one. Mr. Blackwood smiled wider and pulled out a second folder, even thicker than the first. "Actually, Callum set up the Morrison Family Trust 25 years ago, long before you came along, and he updated it one final time, just months before his death. You see, when Everly was 10, he moved all his assets into her name, quietly, legally, and very, very permanently." Avalon's face went pale. "What are you saying?" she whispered. "I'm saying," he said, flipping open the folder, "the trust owns all of Callum's real estate, vehicles, stocks, and accounts, which means for the past 14 months you've been living in Everly's properties." On Everly's dime, Jackson dropped his phone. "Wait, the yacht. Never yours," I said. Sienna's lip quivered. "The Hamptons house. Also mine," I said. Avalon's voice cracked. "This is fraud. You can't do this. We'll sue." Mr. Blackwood calmly pulled out a medical report. Callum was of sound mind. He even hired private investigators. "We know about the secret credit cards, the missing family dinners, and the fake medications you swapped." Avalon's mascara started to run. You can't prove that?" "Already did," I said, standing and placing 3 envelopes on the table. "These are eviction notices. You have 30 days to get out of my houses." Avalon's voice broke. "But I'm his wife." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You were a tenant, and Dad figured out your true value. Avalon, $1. Ow. Mr. Blackwood pulled out 3 crisp $1 bills, placed them on the table in front of Avalon, Jackson, and Sienna. "Callum's final will," he said. $1 each, legally binding. Final. Jackson looked like he might cry. Sienna's fake lashes blinked rapidly, like a dying butterfly in a wind tunnel. Avalon just stared at the money like it might bite her. Then Mr. Blackwood handed Me, a sealed envelope. My father's final letter. Let Avalon think she won. It read, "Everything's been in your name for over a year. Love Dad.ps. Check my desk. Your mother's ring is waiting." I smiled. "Good luck with that yacht, Jackson," I said. "Maybe you can paddle away with your dollar." And as I walked out of that law office, heels clicking like a victory drumbeat, I finally heard it. Avalon, the woman who tried to erase me from my father's legacy. Crying story 2. It was a typical Friday night when Emily, my wife of 10 years, announced she was going to a get-together with some old friends from college. She was excited, putting on her favorite dress and looking radiant as ever. We had been married long enough for these little events to become part of our routine. So when she kissed me goodbye and said, "Don't wait up," I barely blinked. "Have fun," I said, smiling as she walked out the door. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? But a few hours later, that feeling started to shift. It wasn't a sudden, overwhelming suspicion, just a quiet tug of unease. She hadn't posted anything to Instagram. And Emily was usually quick to show off her outings, especially when she looked as good as she did tonight. There were no updates, no check-ins, nothing. I brushed it off at first, telling myself not to be paranoid. She's just having fun, I thought. I grabbed a beer, settled into the couch, and tried to lose myself in a movie. But the knot in my stomach tightened as the hours dragged on. I glanced at the clock. 1:30 a.m., still no word. That's when I did something I'd never done before. I opened our shared phone account and checked the text logs. It felt wrong, intrusive, but my gut told me there was more to this night than she had let on. And I was right. The name Ryan popped up again and again in the message logs. A quick scroll through the messages was enough to paint a clear picture. Ryan wasn't an old college friend. He was someone she had met online, someone she had been texting, flirting with. And tonight, she was with him. A part of me wanted to stop reading, to pretend it wasn't happening. But I couldn't. My hands trembled as I read through their messages. They weren't overtly sexual, but had that undertone of connection. They joked, shared inside details, and the words that crushed me. "I can't wait to see you tonight." My head spun. Emily, the woman I had loved and trusted for over a decade, was lying to me. And here I was, sitting at home like an idiot, while she spent the night with another man by the time she walked through the door at 3:30 a.m. My world had shifted. Emily came in quietly, as if trying not to wake me, her heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor. Her hair was a mess, and she smelled faintly of alcohol. "You're still awake?" she asked. Her voice soft, but surprised she was caught off guard. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice even. "Just couldn't sleep." "How was the party?" asked, watching her carefully. She hesitated just for a moment, but long enough for me to notice. "It was fine, just a few of us catching up." I didn't realize it was so late. I studied her, searching for signs of the truth behind her words. Her eyes didn't meet mine. Instead, she busied herself with taking off her shoes and setting them neatly by the door. That subtle avoidance told me everything I needed to know. "So, who was there?" I asked casually, pretending not to know the answer. "Just some old friends," she replied too quickly. "You wouldn't know them." A lie. I knew who was there. Only one person. Ryan. I didn't push her further that night. I wanted to desperately, but I needed more proof. I wasn't going to confront her until I had every detail, every fact laid out. I didn't just want an apology, wanted retribution. Over the next few days, I dove deeper into Emily's world. When she wasn't looking, I checked her phone, her social media, anything that could give me more information. I learned about Ryan, how they met through a friend of a friend, how their conversations had started out innocently, and how they had grown closer over time. The messages became more intimate, more personal. I began piecing together the nights she had gone out with friends and compared them to her text logs with Ryan. It all lined up. She had been seeing him behind my back for weeks. One evening, when she was taking a shower, I found what I needed. Message that sealed her fate. Ryan had sent her a photo of the two of them at the party, his arm around her waist, her head resting on his shoulder, both of them smiling. It was clear they weren't just friends. My blood boiled. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt a rage I hadn't known I was capable of, but mixed with that anger was something else. Cold, calculated clarity. This wasn't going to be a shouting match. No, this betrayal required something deeper, something that would leave a mark she would never forget. I started crafting my revenge, carefully. Methodically. I couldn't just confront her. No, that would be too easy. I needed to make her feel the depth of what she had done. And I needed Ryan to feel it too. First, I let her believe everything was fine. I was distant, but not suspiciously. So, I continued my routine, giving her space, letting her think she was getting away with it. In the meantime, I began tracking Ryan. I found his social media, his workplace, and even his personal email. He was careless, like so many people are. I created a fake persona, someone who appeared to be a mutual friend of Emily's, someone who could get close to Ryan. Over a series of weeks, I built an online relationship with him, gaining his trust, learning more about his life. He didn't suspect a thing. At the same time, I installed hidden cameras in our house, capturing every moment Emily spent texting him. I recorded their phone conversations, their secret meetings, all of it. I was building a case not for a legal battle, but for something far worse. The day finally arrived. Emily had left the house to meet a friend for coffee. I knew exactly where she was headed, to Ryan's apartment. I let her go, but this time, I wasn't just waiting at home. I had already set up the final step of my plan. I uploaded the footage I had collected, carefully editing it to tell a story of betrayal, of lies, of a woman who had deceived her husband, with a man who thought he could steal someone else's wife. I posted it anonymously on a popular social media platform, framing it as a social experiment. It didn't take long for the video to gain traction by the time Emily returned home that evening. The internet had turned against her. She had no idea what was waiting for her. Her phone buzzed incessantly with messages and notifications. She unlocked it, her face growing pale as she scrolled through the comments. Her secret was out, and the world was watching. What? What is this? She stammered, her eyes wide with shock. I stood in the doorway, watching her fall apart. I told you not to wait up, I said, my voice calm, but I couldn't help myself. She turned to me, tears welling in her eyes. Did you do this? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Emily's life unraveled after that. Ryan disappeared, his reputation destroyed by the video's revelations. As for Emily, she became a pariah, her friends turning their backs on her, her social media accounts bombarded with hateful comments. She begged for my forgiveness, swore she still loved me, but it was too late. I packed my things and left without a word. The silence I left behind was all the answer she needed. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Lauren's Story for more dramatic, thought-provoking tales. There's always more where this came from.